now, and Karen assures me she's going to read the news in Spanish at 11 o'clock. That should be very interesting. Now, coming up in a packed programme, we have a lot to discuss. We've just done a big interview with Simon Coveney. He's the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Tanaiste. So it was recorded just half an hour ago. So there's no point texting in during the interview in terms of if you want me to ask him questions, because I have asked a number of serious questions about the issues affecting voters in Waterford and beyond. But if you want to text in any comments regarding what he has to say, please do. We will welcome your texts and comments. 083 3333 975. You can call Audrey on 051 846 123. John Fitzgerald, a Tramore resident, on the difficulties assessing council housing for himself, is coming up afterwards. Dr. James Ryan, consultant endocrinologist, is coming up as well, regarding 1 in 10 people go to work while sick. Shirley Sullivan and a number of people involved related to those boys that were attacked in the acid attack will be in studio later on this morning. And Gemma Keogh, nutritionist on gluten-free diets, will be in. So much to talk about. During the interview with Simon Coveney, I handed him a sheet which a number of people have showed on the internet up to now. Talks about the difference in the inpatient bed requirements and I suppose inpatient bed numbers that Waterford, for example, 450 beds. Cork, 830 beds at the University Hospital Waterford. Galway, 685. Limerick, 445. Goes through different figures regarding baseline population. Spend per citizen is very, very important. If you look at 500,000 in Waterford, 550,000 in Cork, Galway, 822, Limerick, 385. The spend per citizen in University Hospital Waterford is lower, far lower, in that area in terms of the baseline population compared to Cork, Galway and Limerick. So it's €346 spend per citizen in euros. Cork is 525, Galway is 365 and Limerick is 512. So here is the interview I did with Tanaiste and Minister for Foreign Affairs Simon Coveney. Tanaiste and Minister for Foreign Affairs Simon Coveney, good morning.
Good morning, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us, it's a pleasure. Firstly, why are you in Waterford today?
Well, I'm in Waterford today because it's a general election. I'm here with John Cummins in Waterford City this morning, and later I'll be with Damien Geoghegan in Dungarvan. We've got 3 new but really good candidates that have been very successful in local government, and they want to get into the Dáil, and we are really serious about supporting both of them in doing that, and reminding people that Waterford needs to be and is a big priority in government. I mean, we have a very exciting plan for growth and expansion in this city. We want Waterford City really to be the economic engine for the South East, which it can be. But for that to happen, there needs to be significant public investment. There also needs to be a clear policy to develop and grow Waterford, city and county. And we have that in the 2040 plan, which essentially wants to see the cities outside of Dublin grow at twice the pace of Dublin over the next 20 years. And that means adding about 35,000 people to the population of Waterford City, which means more schools. It means a university here. It means more investment in healthcare, particularly at the hospital. And of course, it means more jobs. And there's a big project, as people will know, on the North Quays that needs both policy certainty and significant funding from the state, and it'll get both.
We'll go through those specific issues in a few minutes, if you don't mind. Firstly, part of the reason that yourself and Richard Bruton are here today is regarding broadband and looking at expanding broadband and trying to, I suppose, assuage the fears that people might have that broadband won't be delivered in the way that you're planning to deliver it. 2 quick points. Ireland is still one of the most expensive countries in the world for broadband. This comes from the Global Broadband Pricing Report. Puts Ireland 133rd out of 206 countries, 21st out of 29 in Western Europe. How can the people of Ireland trust you that you're going to build a proper broadband network when, for example, you can't build a children's hospital in Dublin in budget?
Well, first of all, we can build a children's hospital in Dublin, and we're getting on and building
budget.
it. The original estimates for the cost of that project were way out. That was a significant mistake. We've accepted that.
Pascal Donoghue said last week he was very... That's the one regret. Do you have a regret?
And we've learned lessons from that. Of course I have. But no one is suggesting that we can build that hospital any cheaper. We're being criticised because we got the original estimate wrong. But it's still the right thing to do. Ireland needs a national children's hospital with satellites in different parts of the country. country, and we're building that now. But on broadband, we are a political party in Fine Gael that has a very clear plan now. It's been in gestation for a number of years. We've been through a long tendering process, but now we are going to put significant public money into making sure that every premises in the country gets broadband. And in the case of Waterford, there are 15,000 premises across Waterford today that don't have access to high-speed broadband. We are planning to spend
Which is shocking. We saw the news last night, people saying you can't get broadband. Exactly. Like in a village, Passage East, seven miles from here.
We need to end that, right? And we have committed now 59 million euros to correct that. And what that means is that the state is going to subsidise the rollout of fibre broadband into all of these premises, into people's homes, businesses, farmyards and so on, so that we are not going to allow, as in my view other parties would, an urban-rural divide when it comes to broadband access. Because in the future, this isn't just about, entertainment and booking Ryanair flights. It is also about accessing public services. So in the future, not having high-speed broadband will be almost like not having electricity in the past. It's that essential, in my view, in terms of quality of life, in terms of opportunities to work from home, work flexible hours, access information for healthcare, for education, for social welfare, for public services and so on.
Why haven't you done it before now, Tanaiste? Like, again, some people will accuse you of political posturing.
No, because it's costing us a lot of money. And we needed to go through a long and very robust and transparent tendering process to make sure we're getting full value for money. And what I would ask other parties, in particular Fianna Fáil, who as late as the summer said that if they were in government they wouldn't go ahead with the broadband plan, I think they need to answer the question, how do they propose to get high-speed broadband into 15,000 premises across Waterford? And how do they propose to answer the question that if they were in government, how do they prevent an urban-rural divide on broadband? Because Fine Gael can answer that question. We have it fully costed and it's on a timeline now to get done. And in my view, it will represent value for money, despite the criticism that we've got. In 5 and 10 years' time, people will be saying, how did we wait as long as we did to roll out broadband and to publicly subsidise that? I can say very directly to people in Waterford, particularly Waterford County, who are frustrated that they cannot get the kind of broadband speeds that others in the city can get. We
at very expensive price.
Yeah, well, we're also making sure that the broadband rollout is affordable in rural Ireland, which is an essential part of this. Otherwise, it wouldn't be accessible.
In terms of Fianna Fáil, you mentioned there, a quick mention regarding your comments. Do you want to reiterate what you said about Micheál Martin last week and his inability, as far as you see it, to lead Ireland in the Brexit negotiations the same way you would?
Well,
Deirdre Clune was on this morning talking about it, and yet other Fianna Fáil people will say it doesn't necessarily who the personnel are.
Look, I mean, this isn't about personalities, actually, for me.
It seemed to be what you were saying last week with Micheál.
What I did was I made a comparison. There are two potential Taoiseach after this election. Leo Varadkar and Micheál Martin. I've worked closely with both on different things at different times, but I've worked very closely with Leo Varadkar when it comes to Brexit. He has shown a real steel when he needed to protect Ireland under huge pressure. He's found a way to compromise to get a deal done in a way that protects Ireland. And I think both men are competent politicians, but I think that Leo Varadkar has proven himself on an international stage to be able to navigate the really, really tricky and pressurised environment of Brexit. And I believe we need that skill set again to get us through the next round of Brexit negotiation. That was the point I was making. It's not a personalised attack or anything. It's comparing the record of the two men. In my view, we need to, I hope we will be in a position to continue to trust a team that has delivered a good outcome in the first round of Brexit to be able to make sure we get a good outcome in the second round, which, by the way, is going to impact potentially hundreds of thousands of families and businesses across Ireland in a negative way if we don't get a good outcome on a future trade deal. If you're a fisherman, for example, we need to ensure that we negotiate access for Irish fishing boats boats into British waters in the next probably 6 months, never mind 12 months. If you're a farmer, we need to make sure that we can sell beef into the UK without tariffs.
Yes.
If you're running a hotel or a tourism operation, the devaluation of sterling in the absence of a trade deal will have a dramatic impact potentially on your UK business. And
many fishermen and farmers you mentioned there would be very critical of some of your policies recently.
Well, maybe so.
You're name checking them
on the key issue of getting a trade deal in place, ensuring that Irish fishing interests get access into British waters. In many ways, this election is going to come down to one question: who do you trust? To stand up for you and to represent you on these key issues.
And in speaking of trust, again, we'll go back to the regional and local issues in a minute. Just have to mention Catherine Noone. You mentioned her yesterday and you spoke about you're very sorry about what she had to say.
I think I was more critical than that.
The trust of, did you stop her doing an interview? Has the party stopped her from doing an interview?
No. I mean,
categorically no.
No, I mean, she looked far and got advice from the party in terms of how to move on from here. She has made a very, very sincere apology. Her comments were insensitive and absolutely wrong and offended many people. They shouldn't have happened.
Why don't you allow her to say that on television or radio?
Because she accepts now that making a complete and full apology, which is what she's done already, is the best way of bringing closure to this episode that should never have happened.
Was there a media training session that she felt didn't really work very well, and it's better to keep Catherine Noone off the radio airwaves?
Sorry, that's not the way we operate in Fine Gael. Maybe it is in other political parties.
Well, it didn't happen.
But we don't tell people what to do. Catherine Noone has made up her own mind. Obviously, she's consulted with colleagues in the party, and we've provided advice that she's asked for. It's no more or less than that.
What are you going to do regarding the development of the North Quays in Waterford? Are you guaranteeing, as a Taoiseach said yesterday, tens of millions to see this project over the line?
Absolutely. And I mean, this isn't a new announcement by Fine Gael. I mean, the North Quays is very much part of our 2040 plan. It's part of the future development of this city, which is a magnificent city, but has the capacity to grow and fulfil its potential. But it needs investment. It needs policy certainty. It needs the government willing to spend over 100 million euros putting in place the infrastructure that's needed to bring this project to life. And we are committing to doing that. We've committed in the past, and I'll reinforce that commitment today. We're not doing it as some kind of election stunt. This is something that is very much part of Fine Gael policy. If we're going to ensure that cities like Waterford and Cork and Limerick and Galway grow to their full potential, create counterbalance to the dominance of Dublin in terms of investment opportunity, jobs opportunities, and a decent quality of life, then we have to be willing to invest significant amounts of public money to bring those projects to reality. And that is the case for the North Quays project. There's a significant private sector interest that wants to spend hundreds of millions of euros too. But in order to release that potential, then the state has to commit to a significant amount of money for infrastructure to access, particularly in relation to bridges, but also other infrastructure too. The local authority here in Waterford has committed to spending up to 20 or 30 million euros, I think. But the state will need to do more. And we are committed to that. We have a fund to do that. There is an urban development fund that is in place now. And we will see over the next 4 to 5 years, which is the timeline for this project anyway, a release of significant funding to make sure that this goes ahead. Because I think a lot of people, because of the scale and ambition of this project, a lot of people are asking the question, is this for real? And let me tell you, it is. And we see this really as sort of the heartbeat, if you like, for the next stage of development of Waterford City.
Do you have any problem working with a company that is very closely connected with the Saudi Arabian regime?
Well, I mean, it's not me working with that company.
No, but
I mean, this is a project. No, but this is a project that's led by Waterford at a local government level.
So you don't have a problem with
they have applied for significant funding to generate up to 6,500 extra jobs at the heart of Waterford City. People like John Cummins and others have been huge advocates for this project, and we will see it through.
Okay. In terms of Waterford Airport, can you guarantee that there will be development of Waterford Airport and that there will be big planes flying out of Waterford Airport?
Well, I can't guarantee the planes, but I can guarantee the infrastructure. Shane Ross came to government with a recommendation for funding that was supported and approved by government.
Well, it's definitely going to happen.
What's needed, the advice that we've been given is that the runway needs to be upgraded in Waterford Airport,
yes,
in order to attract back commercial traffic. The local authority and indeed private sector interests have agreed to put money into that, as long as the government would too, and we have responded to that call positively. So that infrastructure is going to be put in place, and then it's obviously up to the team at Waterford Airport to attract in the commercial airlines to start flying people in and out of Waterford again.
How old are you, Simon Coveney?
How old am I? I'm 47.
Okay, I'm 49, okay? We're just about hitting the area where we're getting into difficulty and possible difficulty regarding heart matters.
Yeah.
I said this to Fianna Fáil leader when he was in last time. You're a Cork man as well. There's a possibility that if I got a heart attack at a weekend, I'd be in an ambulance on the way down to Cork.
Look, I mean,
it's not right, is it?
Well, the cath lab issue has been a real issue of contention, I know, in Waterford for quite some time.
Just on a personal level, can I just ask you about that? Again, I'm in the same situation as yourself. Thankfully, fairly healthy. It's not right. Forget about the economics of this, the morality of this.
Look, I mean, I'm not a health expert, and I don't pretend to be. What we have done is we have committed now to the building of a second cath lab in Waterford Hospital. That's after a lot of discussion and consultation with the HSE, the Department of Health, commitments that have been made by Simon Harris and the government, in consultation with medical interests here in Waterford. That allows us, by committing to a second cath lab, that allows us to provide 24/7 cardiac care out of Waterford. There is an ongoing assessment which is being independently done by an expert, and I think everybody accepts he is an expert, into cardiac care nationally. And if his recommendation in the next short number of weeks and months, because I think it is that current, is that there should be 24/7 cardiac care in Waterford General Hospital, well, then we will have the capacity to do that.
Waterford Regional Hospital.
Regional Hospital, I should say. We will have the capacity to do that, and the investment is being put in place to make sure that happens. In the meantime...
And if that gentleman in question decides, no, we do not have the population base to warrant putting in 7 cardiologists and whatever the teams may be, then we will not get 24/7 care. It may be 8 to 8 care.
But look, we have always made the case, and this isn't just about Waterford, it's about hospital care and healthcare across the country. We've got to make decisions on the basis of medical experts making recommendations. What we are doing politically is we're putting the capacity now in place to be able to implement whatever recommendation Professor Nolan makes.
Yes.
And if that's 24/7 cardiac care in Waterford, that will be done. In the meantime, we have moved ahead to increase the opening hours for the existing cath lab, to take on the extra staff to do that. And so, I think we've behaved responsibly here. We've invested very heavily in healthcare in Waterford, and we will continue to do that, whether that's a new hospice, whether it's a significant new wing on the hospital, the Dunmore wing, whether it's the Sláinte Care plan, which I think, prioritises Waterford to play a bigger role in relation to national hospital care, or whether it's the cath lab, putting in a second cath lab to make sure that if the recommendation is, and we'll see it, as I say, in a few weeks' time, is for 24/7 care, well, then we can do that.
It's one of those issues, unfortunately, for yourselves as a government, that it goes to the heart of the perception of how the government may view different regions. And again, I go back to the thing, there is a morality here on this, and economics comes into it as well, of course. But this idea, and I'm not being flippant.
Economics
about this.
is not the consideration here. Money has not been the problem here. The only issue here is about trying to ensure that we provide the best cardiac care for people in the southeast.
And we don't have the best.
And if that means 24/7 cardiac care, then that will be provided, and we will have the infrastructure and investment and commitment around extra staffing to do that. Simon Harris has been crystal clear on that. In fact, I rang him this morning on the way down before doing this interview.
I wish he'd come in and talk to us, because
to make sure that I could
for 5 years to talk to him, and he hasn't talked
to make sure that I could be as clear as I have been.
Okay.
But our Fine Gael people in Waterford have been very strong on this, and they continue to be strong on this, and that is why money is not the issue here.
Money is not the issue. Okay, I've just presented you with a sheet there where there's a number of details regarding beds and stuff like that. So University Hospital Waterford compared to Cork UH, Galway UH, Limerick UH, inpatient beds, baseline population, hospital budgets, staff, spend per citizen, citizen per staff, citizen per bed. Again, Waterford, University Hospital Waterford comes across and comes down on this list as in a bad place. There's great people working there, we know that.
Yeah.
There's a perception.
And there's been huge investment.
Eileen Dunn said it on the news last night. Waterford is perceived as the forgotten city.
Well, look, I mean, I think what
is that the government's fault?
No, it's not. Well, first of all, Waterford is not the forgotten city, not by a long shot. I mean, let me just remind people of where we were 9 years ago when Fine Gael came into government, because Waterford at that time, or the southeast, had an unemployment level of over 20%. We now have an unemployment level of around 5%. So we are not quite there, but we're close to full employment in this region, driven by Waterford City. We're the government that wants to make Waterford Institute of Technology a technological university, and have been pushing strongly for that. We're the government that has invested very significantly in healthcare. Some of the projects that I spoke about earlier, a new hospice,
yes,
a significant new wing to the hospital, adding significant numbers of beds. We have committed to the second cath lab and to 24/7 cardiac care, if that's what the medical recommendation is. So, Waterford is a changing place. The quality of life is improving here. We're seeing more houses being built now because there are housing pressures here too, like there are in other parts of the country, and we're seeing significant progress there. We've seen the number of rough sleepers in Waterford City drop significantly in recent months, and the number of homeless families drop significantly too. So this is a city moving in the right direction. We need to talk it up rather than talk it down. And Fine Gael is passionate about creating counterbalances to Dublin and the dominance of the East Coast in relation to economic development, in relation to quality of life. And that is why, whether it's public transport, whether it's housing, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, all of these things are in a process of change and growth in Waterford at the moment, and will continue under Fine Gael if we can stay in government.
And that process needs to be speeded up from what the figures I've just presented you, and from what people have been saying to me and to others on this programme.
No.
Do you know where I'm coming from?
I accept, by the way, there is a perception in Waterford, particularly around the hospital, that it hasn't received the same priority as hospitals potentially in other parts of the country.
More than a perception.
I think that if you look at the actual investment that's been made and the priority that's been given, the facts would suggest something different, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Finally, the Middle East peace deal, from Waterford to the Middle East.
Yeah.
In one easy move. What have you got to say about this plan that President Trump has got, and the idea that this morning, for example, the Examiner in Cork is saying that this is a recipe for war?
Yeah, well, look, I'm the Minister for Foreign Affairs, so I'm glad you asked me this question. I'm not sure it's the first thing on the minds of people in Waterford, but it's a serious issue. I have been vocal in response to the announcement of this plan. I'm very worried about it. I don't think it's balanced. I don't think that Palestinians have been involved in the design of it in the way that they should have been. And clearly the Israeli government has been very much involved. So if you're going to have a peace plan that can work, you've got to have a quality of esteem in terms of both sides to a conflict. And I don't think this plan has achieved that.
What are you going to do? What are the Irish government going to do?
Well, first of all, I think I've made a very strong statement on it. I think it's probably stronger than any other foreign minister in the European Union. I actually have a good relationship, and have had quite a close relationship with the team in Washington that has put this plan together. In fact, as late as last Friday, I spoke to Jared Kushner, who's the author of the plan, continuing to advocate for what I believe is necessary for peace in the Middle East. I've been to Israel and Palestine 4 times in less than 2 years. I've met all of the senior leaders in both countries repeatedly. So Ireland is involved here. We have peacekeepers both on the Golan Heights and in southern Lebanon, which are very much part of this process. So we're invested and very interested and want to be as influential as we can in terms of trying to get the right outcome. And, I'll continue to be vocal on this issue.
And finally, because I know we're up against time, speaking to people in America, have you spoken to John Deise in the last while?
No, I haven't spoken to John for a while. He has done a very good job in raising Irish issues in Washington, particularly around undocumented Irish in the US. He's worked really hard on what's called the E3 visa program, which effectively would, and I hope we're going to be able to pull this off, would allow Ireland to get thousands of visas each year to allow Irish people to go and work and live in the States if that's what they want to do. And traditionally, Irish people have played an extraordinary role in building America and in so many ways. So, John has made a significant contribution to those efforts, as well as, of course, being a strong voice for Waterford. But we have a new team.
Do you know if he's canvassing with Damien Gagan or John Cummins?
We have a new team now in town. They are 2 very vocal, talented politicians, John Cummins and Damien Gagan. I know them both really well. I think both of them could be really, really effective TDs for Waterford. I would strongly recommend that people support them, because Waterford needs a strong voice in the Dáil.
And would you give John Deise a ring to say, get out there and support these gentlemen?
I believe that both Damien and John are really high-quality candidates who are going to do really well in this election.
Okay, you're not going to answer my question, though.
I know, look, John will make his own decisions.
Okay,
but,
yeah.
I'm here today with
promote the
with John
message
Cummins
that you said, yes.
And Damien Gagan. They're great candidates. They will be very strong advocates for the kind of things that we've been talking about earlier, to make sure that Waterford is prioritised in future government decisions. And I can assure you, if it's a Fine Gael government, they will be.
Taoiseach, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Simon Coveney, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the programme. Text in, please, 083 333 975. You can call Audrey on 051 846 123. I think there's been a problem with our app this morning, so some of you may not have heard that interview. The purpose of that interview this morning was to elicit information from a senior government minister about their plans for Waterford and obviously nationally issues such as broadband, and to let people make up their own minds. So the questions I asked specifically were quite pointed in terms of specific policies. I only had 20 minutes with the minister this morning. The texts are coming in. Damien, when will you be speaking to Simon Coveney? Can you please remind him a lot of the empty promises that have been made to and about Waterford, but alas, alas, alas. Damien, rural Ireland is well forgotten by Fine Gael. No vote, too many empty promises. Used to be a supporter, done and dusted. Barry texts in, holding on to the 13 billion tax from Apple, an absolute disgrace. More interested in keeping multinationals happy than people's health. Shame on them. No way I will be voting Fine Gael. Barry, a council worker. Damien, we need a fully functioning hospital, a university and the airport. Then we might stand a chance of equality. More promises. They were in power for how long? And now they'll deliver for Waterford. Don't put money on it. That's from Ed. Damien, Fine Gael has disrespected Waterford. No university, no 24/7 care, politicians not being available and being absent, borough boundary extension refused. Not only one river crossing, lack of proper mortuary. I could go on, says John. Another text, the Children's Hospital will cost 3 billion or more. Shouldn't Simon Harris have been removed after this shambles? Damien, why didn't they do all these things when they were in power? Suddenly all promises before an election. Linden, the county. Damien, I come from a family of Fine Gael voters, but I'm listening to a mouthful of bull and lies. They can do all this now in the next few years, but they couldn't do it in the last few years. I can't see myself ever voting for Fine Gael again. I'll be voting for whoever can do the most for Waterford. That doesn't include Fianna Fáil either, says Linden, the county. Councillor Pat Fitzgerald from Sinn Féin has texted in that Mairead McGuinness MEP insulted British MEPs in the European Parliament yesterday. He says Irish fishermen will be ruined if they don't get access to British waters in the UK trade deals. Insulting the British days before they leave the EU is not a good start to negotiations. Damien, will you get that man off the radio, please? I can't believe what he's saying. He can't answer on the cat labs. Damien, more spoofing from Fine Gael. If, in inverted commas, there's a inverted commas, recommendation for 24/7 in a few weeks after the election. Who in their right mind would believe this? That's from Eamon. Damien, I don't care what expectation looks at the cardiac care situation unless they drive from Waterford to Cork at different times of the day and night. They will not understand. That's why we are so concerned about the isolation and the issue here in Waterford. Jim says, Damien, I'm furious listening to this garbage from the Minister. Quoting the money is not the issue. We will have the report back in a few weeks before we decide if we give 24/7 cat lab. Well, funny, the report will come after the election. Well, I, for one, am sick and tired of this crap, says Jim. These guys must think the electorate are thick. I, for one, will not be voting for Fine Gael's empty promise. Damien, you've treated him with too much respect. Where have your jaw teeth gone? I like that, Jim, jaw teeth. Damien, Simon can surely talk, but they've had 9 years of promising this and that of truth and truth. How many of our fellow citizens have been dumped out of their houses by their friendly bankers who pay no tax on their profits? Anyone supporting this government or Fianna Fáil, and a total disregard for people being shown in the country. Damien, Simon should realise that if the funding for the North Quays is not given by tomorrow, it's not going to go on ahead. Damien, why didn't Fine Gael support Waterford in the last few years? Damien, you were a bit soft with Michael, says that person. Damien, the next time Simon is on WLR, he might answer the questions. Paul says, Damien, an excellent interview. I will continue to vote for Fine Gael because they're the only party that mentioned the North Quays in their manifestos. I fear a Cork-based Taoiseach would scupper these plans. An update. Damien, I hope John Deise is out canvassing and calls at my door. I'll have a few things to say to him. Damien, the questions you ask had little or do to do with the election. You brought up the South East, not Waterford. You let him away with this. That's from Aaron. He says it wasn't a great interview. Damien, I met David Cullinan in Portlaw last night in his team. Damien, doesn't anyone else in this regard, in the inclusion of women in politics, regard to Bailey and Noon? That's from John Kiley. Damien, Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil aren't serious about a university in Waterford. Text into WhatsApp 083 3333 975. Damien, plans, reviews, more plans. What a waste of airtime. Damien, the same old song puts us back in government and we'll do this, and the Minister for Health and Housing are nothing short of disasters. That's from Frankie. Keep your texts coming in. Again, as you saw from the nature of the interview, I presented certain facts and very particular issues regarding the cat lab, and the main issue I had regarding other issues. I've reflected all those in the questions that I asked. There were a number of national questions that we had to deal with as well, but those national questions only took up a very, very small amount of time. Text in, please, 083 3333 975. In a minute, I'm going to be talking to Dr. James Ryan from the Mater Hospital regarding serious matters. About 1 in 10 people go to work while sick. Keep your texts and comments coming in, please, to 083 3333 975 about that interview with Minister Simon Coveney. Eileen has texted in, Damien, I won't be voting for Fine Gael. It's the Greens for me. Other people texting in, they thought Simon Coveney spoke well, and others very, very critical of what he had to say. Now, I'm going to go to Dr. James Ryan. Good morning, James.
Morning, Damien. Thanks very much for having me on.
Not at all, and appreciate you coming on. I know it's difficult to get you on sometimes, and you're a busy, busy man. You work with the Mater Private. You're doing research which focuses on wellness and work. You're a consultant endocrinologist. 1 in 10 people go to work while sick, 1 in 3 of them against their doctor's advice. This is very serious, some of these findings, aren't they?
Well, they are. I suppose I always like to focus on positives. I suppose what it does is it shows that we are hard-working adults, I suppose, but the negative of it would be that we're probably prioritising work over our own health, which I suppose it's something we probably know, but I suppose when you see the evidence in front of you, it gives us something of a bit of a wake-up call and say, jeepers, we're putting ourselves under probably too much pressure, and our physical and mental health are suffering as a result.
Yeah, this is the Healthy Working Report. It reveals that only 15% admit to not having a healthy lifestyle, while poor choices in terms of diet, exercise and work-life balance were affecting the physical and mental health of a workforce. In terms of specifics and flus, I know a lot of people think that they do want to go to work and I'll be grand, I'll get over it. But very simply, if you go to work and if you feel a flu or if you feel a bad cold coming on, how in today's modern work atmosphere as well, where there's so many open plan offices, it's just so easy for things to be spread, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And, I suppose when you're under the weather, your work performance is probably going to suffer, no doubt. And again, I suppose people are probably worried, but there's job security issues. And again, if you look at it, 4 out of 5 people have felt work-related stress, and probably a lot of that is, not wanting to let people down. And I think in many ways we're being a bit harsh on ourselves. A couple of things from that study stood out for me. I mean, over half of the survey population felt that they were too tired after work to get any exercise in. And I suppose and over 60% of people rated themselves as unfit or overweight. And when you look at, I suppose, the big increase in people with kind of lifestyle-related disease such as type 2 diabetes, etc., we're putting ourselves in a bit of danger. And I suppose what we try and do in our workplace is to try and prioritise our own health and, get an emphasis on maybe getting at least half an hour of the day out of the office and going for a walk, etc., to try and bring some bit of balance to the workplace.
Do you think people's attitudes to these things have changed in the last while? Like from when you were a young lad, as they say, James, it was different. This idea that, you go to work, you're grand. No matter how bad you are, you're grand. Get on with the type of thing,
I think, I suppose, I'm in my 40s, and I think probably the generation I'm in haven't changed. I would hope that the younger generation coming up, might look at this and say, jeepers, there's a generation ahead of us there who have put themselves in the way of health problems and stress-related problems, and that the hope would be that maybe that population would look at it and say, well, what we are going to do? We're going to get in a bit more exercise. We're going to think a bit about our diet, think a bit about our mental health, try and get a proper night's sleep, maybe smoke and drink a little less. Again, one of the things is we actually 35% of the working adults were smokers, and 1 in 5 admitted to drinking alcohol to excess regularly. So, I suppose I think maybe our generation are dealing with stress in the wrong ways through, maybe bad diet, smoking, excess drinking, etc.
Do you think the employers are doing enough?
Well, that was one of the positives, actually, to be fair. I think 4 in 5 employers had a scheme for wellness at work. I think over 40% had, eating facilities and encouraged healthy diet. So I think employers probably are. It's whether, I suppose, how we get our heads around the fact that it's not the end of the world if you don't come to work when you're sick, right? Work will always be there. When we're all dead and gone, there's plenty of work there. And look after yourself a small little bit, look after each other. But I think employers are coming around that the work performance will be better if your working population are healthy and are less stressed.
And there is another issue a person has texted in. Damien, people go to work, a lot of times they go to work sick, as most don't get paid if they're out sick, or if they're out sick for one day. Some companies request a doctor's sick cert. If you're a worker with no medical card, free drug screen, then it's another €100. That's if you can get an appointment with your doctor. So that might come into it in some cases, wouldn't it, James?
Absolutely would, yeah. And I'd have experienced that myself, just even socially, through buddies who would say, Christ, I missed 2 days of work there, the boss is on to me, can you do me a note, etc. And you can see people getting stressed about it, and again, I don't think of, sure, if you're sick, and, do take your time off. But I suppose it probably adds to the mental stress, I've got to be there, I'm letting people down, or because I got to get a doctor's note, and it's put the financial pressure on people who are already pressurised. So there's no doubt that that's a factor, all right.
James, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
No problem, Damien.
Thank you. Dr. James Ryan there, who is a consultant endocrinologist at the Mater Private Hospital, focusing on the research regarding going to work sick. Let us know what you think. 083 3333 975. Anthony from Kill Village has texted in about Simon, and then basically saying that he didn't believe him. He was deflecting from Waterford to the southeast in general. All we needed to hear Fine Gael won't be getting any votes in this house, and he says it's just not on. Damien, I can't listen via the internet. Please check the system. We are updating that, and the system is being updated, so there have been problems with that this morning. We'll get back to you. Damien, roadworks all the way, 90 minutes my ass. Damien, I'm sick of listening to people about housing. Damien, I'm on my way to CUH now for an appointment. I'm sitting in traffic at Castlemartyr for the past 15 minutes. I wouldn't like to be in the middle of having a heart attack. So this person is sitting in traffic in Castlemartyr for the last 15 minutes. Damien, just listening to the Simon Coveney interview. Weasel words again from Fine Gael, I'm afraid. After 9 years in government, they talk about what they would have done in the future instead of showing the difference in the past. Are Fianna Fáil any better? I don't think so, says this person. Other people saying that Sinn Féin wouldn't deliver either, and there's too many promises that they are giving and not being fully costed. Damien, I've heard a lot of bull this morning. No full commitment on 24/7. Damien, not one candidate that I see in Dunmore East, and they expect people to vote for them. Damien, there are 167 hours in the week, and if you take 8 to 5 for 5 days a week, we don't have cardio cover for 123 hours a week. Shocking and a huge worry. I hope they don't call to my house. All these promises. Now there's an election. Hopefully people will not be fooled. Another texter in. Damien, excellent interview with Simon Coveney. There was a lot of ahhing and pausing from Simon. It sounded like he didn't know what he was going to say. Damien, Anne has phoned into 051 846 123. She asks if the politicians are not calling to the doors. She's getting the candidate party leaflets through the letterbox, but she says she won't give anyone their vote if they don't bother calling to the door and knocking on the house. Same thing from a lady in Ballytruckle. A woman in Ballytruckle says the candidates aren't knocking at the doors but just putting leaflets in the letterbox. There's a lot of elderly people in the area, and it is a real nuisance. Keep your texts and your comments coming in. 083 3333 975. Now, keep your texts and your comments coming in. 083 3333 975. As I've done in the programme since I started here a year next week, I have read out a comparison and I suppose a comparable amount of texts. So if there's text coming in to defend the government, I will be reading out those texts. As far as I can see from the text coming in, I've seen one text coming in there at present. So I am balanced and fair in giving out those texts, and I'm particularly conscious of that during an election period as well. Damien, Castlemartyr needs to be bypassed. On another matter, caller has phoned into 051 846 123 that the level of dog fouling on the Greenway is disgraceful. He lives in Kilmac and met a family on Saturday who asked them where could they hose down the wheels of their bicycles and their buggy before they put them in the car because they were filthy from the dog dirt. He asked for people to tidy up after their dogs. It's disgraceful, and people should be bringing bags with them, and they should have them. It shouldn't be allowed. Like, if you're going to bring your dog out, I've said it so many times, have a dog bag with you. Have a bag. Have more than one bag. On the issue of going to appointments for doctors, the texters say, Damien, why, when you ring for an appointment with your doctor, does the secretary find it her business for you to divulge to her as to why you want to see your doctor? Are all secretaries like this? It should be none of their business, I would presume. What do you think? Let us know. Another person has texted in. Damien, what makes me laugh about people looking to get their seats is that rather than the hospital, the university, homelessness, ordinary people are trying to cope financially. And these are things that have to be brought up time and again. But what about general everyday living for someone who can't afford to put food on the table for their children? They don't care about broadband, and unless they need the hospital, they don't care about that either. They probably can't afford to send their children to the college, let alone a university. Outside of these subjects, what are people running for election going to do for the ordinary man and the woman? That's a very, very important question. A texter in from Susan, I think from the Green Party. Yes, Damien, in response to those persons in Ballytruckle who said canvassers weren't calling, the Green Party were there on Monday and we knocked on all the doors that we could get to in the time available. If there is no answer, we have a leaflet, we leave a leaflet, but we don't put any leaflets in where they say there's no junk mail. That's from Susan Gallagher. Damien, what's the difference between Fine Gael and Domino's Pizza? At least Domino's delivers. Keep your texts and comments coming in. 083 33 975. Now, another person has texted in saying that Fine Gael does deliver the N25 and the New Ross bypass, and it's just opened. So the N25 bypass at New Ross are open now for traffic. So safe travelling on that new bridge, and happy motoring to anybody who is on it. Damien, when I work, I only get paid for days worked and I'm entitled to nothing. If not, I don't get sick pay. That is from Lucy. That's one of the reasons that some people go to work when they are not feeling the best. Damien, can you find out about the AIB selling all the ATMs and an American company charging for the hole in the wall? Will we be charged $3.50? As far as I understand, that deal has not yet been finalised and we don't have confirmation how much charges will be on those findings.